Now we want to solve this equation right here. So whenever you get an equation to solve, you have to decide what type of equation it is, and that tells you basically how to solve it. So if we notice here on the left-hand side, we have one radical. Remember, a radical means a square root, cube root, fourth root, etc. So this problem has the square root of 2x plus 15 minus 6 equals x. The way we solve radical equations when there's only one radical present is we want to isolate the radical on one side. So that means I have to get rid of this term here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So that will leave me with the square root of 2x plus 15 on the left-hand side equals x plus 6. Once we've isolated our radical over here, if it's a square root, we square both sides, cube root, cube both sides, etc. So I am going to square both sides of this equation. And notice on the left-hand side, this square undoes this square rooting, and I'm going to land up with 2x plus 15 equals x plus 6 all squared. Now there's two ways to do x plus 6 all squared. One way is you can write it out as x plus 6 times x plus 6. And then you can FOIL it out. I'm going to do this very quickly. First term, outer, inner, and last. Excuse the bad handwriting. That, believe it or not, there was a plus. So I multiplied first term, outer, inner, and then last. I can add the middle two terms together and I get x squared plus 12x plus 36. That is from what I consider the longer way of doing it, but if that's how you feel comfortable, you can always write it this way and FOIL it out. I prefer to do it by what I call a shorter method, which is when you square a binomial, the answer is the first term squared. So if I take x and square it, I get x squared. Twice the product, so 2 times 6 times x is 12x. Plus the last term squared, 6 times 6 is 36. So it doesn't matter whether you do it by this shorter method or you do it by FOIL, as long as you get these three terms, that's fine. Now we've got rid of our radical. Now you have to evaluate what kind of equation you have left. And at this point, if you notice, the highest degree on any of the x's is 2, so I have a quadratic equation. And how do we solve quadratic equations? We learned that in a previous section. So the way we want to do that is we want to get 0 on one side. I always like to collect my x squareds where they're positive, so I'm going to leave these three terms on the right, and I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Then I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. These add up to 0, these add up to 0, so I get my 0 on the left-hand side equals x squared. 12x minus 2x is positive 10x. 36 minus 15 is 21. So now I have my quadratic equation. I have my terms on the right-hand side written in descending order, and I have 0 on the left-hand side. Well, at this point, there's two basic methods we can use to solve this. We can either factor or use the quadratic formula. This is a fairly simple one, as the coefficient of the x squared is 1. So I'm going to factor this one by trial and error. Since this is just an x squared, we know I have an x and an x. The two numbers in my factors have to multiply to positive 21. That means the signs are the same, and since they add up to a positive number, that same sign has to be a plus. And now I need two numbers that multiply to 21 and add to 10. Well, 7 and 3 works perfectly. 7 times 3 is 21, 7 plus 3 is 10. So if I FOIL this expression out, I will get my x squared plus 10x plus 21. Once it's factored, remember, you take each factor and you set them equal to 0. So here we subtract 7 from both sides. Here we subtract 3 from both sides. So right now it looks like I have two solutions. But remember, on radical equations, we have to go back and look at our original equation. Notice this is a square root. Square roots can have extraneous solution. But if the index on the radical was a 3 or a 5 or a 7, any odd number, we do not have to check it. But since this is a square root, we must check our answers for extraneous solutions. And so that means we take our solutions of x equals 7, negative 7, and plug it into this x and this x, see if we get a true statement. So let's check our first solution of negative 7 is 2 times negative 7 plus 15 minus 6 equal to x, which was negative 7. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Negative 14 plus 15 is 1, is the square root of 1 minus 6 equal to negative 7. Remember, the square root of 1, when it's written with the radical sign, it means pick the positive square root. So is 1 minus 6 equal to negative 7. Definitely negative 5 does not equal negative 7. Therefore, this is an extraneous solution. So now I know that one of the solutions I got was extraneous. Now I need to check my other solution. Does 2 times negative 3 plus 15, remember all that's underneath the radical sign, but the 6 is not, minus 6, does that equal negative 3? Might need to scroll down a little bit. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 15 is positive 9. So does 3 minus 6 equal negative 3? Does negative 3 equal negative 3? Yes. So what is my solution to this radical equation? It has one solution, x equals negative 3.